Folks, good evening. We're going to start the public safety meeting for the city of Hudson on, come on in, Joyce, January 10th, 2019. Roll call.
Alderperson Alms.
Here.
Alderperson Hall. Here. Alderperson Morissette.
Here. So minutes from our last meeting. Are there any corrections or revisions?
Thanks for excusing me.
What was that?
I said, thanks for excusing me.
Oh.
I'll move to approve.
I just did that.
Oh, you did. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move to number 5 because those folks have another meeting to get to, if the committee so desires. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
So number 5 is discussion, possible action on Hudson Rotary St. Croix River Dunk in Lakefront Park on February 16th, 2019, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Ms. Rambo, please state your name and your address for the record as well.
You're good. You're good. Good evening, everybody. Carrie Rambo. I'm representing Hudson Rotary Board, and I don't know if we have an address, Randy. It's a P.O. box for the Rotary Board, but
It doesn't matter.
okay. Well, there we go.
Well, it does matter. Just say the hospital address. That's where you work.
Yes,
Okay.
405 Stage Line Road.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we're in our second year of providing a fundraising platform for the smaller nonprofits in the area, and Hudson Rotary would be the host of that. It is a river dunk down at Lakefront Beach, and we did it last year, and we're just looking for support again through the Safety Council to have the appropriate partners there in support of the event.
I see Glenn is here, and Chief, there were no issues from last year, were there?
Mm-hmm.
No, not at all. Carrie, you got your insurance?
Yep, everything's all in and ready to go.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion, any chiefs? All
None.
in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We'll recommend council.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Carrie.
Can't get the agenda to pull up.
Do we have to go? Mary, are you guys in a hurry too? No? Okay, so we'll go back to the regular schedule then. I'm sorry. From where?
Halos.
Sure, come on up. If you've got to be somewhere, absolutely. So we'll move then to the Halos, number 7. And again, please state your name and your address for the record. Look good.
Well, we're on TV, somewhere, someplace. My name is Kelly Espiritu, and my address is 1539 Sequoia Lane, New Richmond, Wisconsin, 54017. I am here for Halos Memorial Run Walk for August 3rd. I know that's quite a ways away, but I like to get started so our committee can get started. And we're really just looking for the same thing as last year. I did bring some paperwork. I don't know if you were given anything, but I can share it if you'd like.
I think we've all been familiar with your organization and what a wonderful job it is for those folks. So,
thank you.
You know, it's a great thing that you guys do. So
Thank you.
I don't believe we've had any issues with that.
Would it be the same plan as last year down St. Croix Street, so a street closure for that hour period of time?
Yeah.
And then you would contract with a couple of our guys to do
Yep.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
If that works still.
That works for us.
It
It worked.
Little things to the houses along the street just
Excellent.
to notify them.
Yep. And I think
Yep.
it went off really well last year, so.
Yeah, I do too. It was good, I think.
Any questions or concerns?
No, just the same as last year, and I think we have the people there, so if we have to get by, we were able to do it, but we didn't have any issues, and I think we addressed that last year, so.
Okay, very good.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We'll recommend to our next council meeting approval.
Thank you. Thank you for
welcome.
moving me forward.
You're welcome. And as long as we're at it, we'll do number 8 since you were here first, so we'll get you in and out. Number 8 is discussion possible action on Turning Point Half Marathon on September 28th, 2019, beginning at White Camp Park, 7:30 a.m.
Perfect. Thanks so much. My name is Amy Berg. I'm with Turning Point for Victims of Domestic and Sexual Violence. The address is 117 North Main Street in River Falls. Again, requesting permission to hold our second Empowered Women's Half Marathon and 5K event on Saturday, September 28th, 2019, starting at White Camp Park in Hudson and ending at Bella Vines in River Falls. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions specifically about the event. I submitted materials prior to the meeting today with the event route. Things seemed to go fairly smoothly last year. We have a few minor changes, mostly at the finish line in River Falls, but we anticipate a little larger crowd this year. It went very well and was very well received, but the route here in the Hudson area would remain the same.
How many did you have last year?
For the half marathon, we had about 100, and then for the 5K, we had about 150.
Oh.
So this year, I'm hoping that we can, the goal would be 250 for the half marathon, but I don't anticipate more than 500 people in the White Camp Park area. White Camp Park. White Camp? White Camp.
White camp.
White Camp.
Were there any issues last year?
I don't recall, was there any problem getting people across Hanley Road?
Not that I'm aware of. To be honest with you, I was over at Bella Vines from very early in the morning until we completed the race, so I did not see firsthand the start of the race,
Okay.
but from what the race manager said and what the participants and the volunteers said, there were no issues whatsoever.
And can you refresh my memory? Did we do anything for you for that race?
Did. Yes, I will double check, but I believe there was an officer stationed at Hanley and O'Neill.
Which is where you cross from the walking path onto O'Neill,
I
right?
believe so.
Okay.
I believe
The
so. I will
O'Neill
double.
going south, right?
Excuse me, I'm
North.
sorry.
Or, yeah, south, yes.
Right, the south,
Yeah.
the one that goes through the business park.
I will double check my race manager's notes from last year and be in communication with you if all is approved today. I'd like to do the same thing if possible, if that works for your
Right,
team.
so from White Camp down Hanley to O'Neill to Tower to Old 35 in that way?
Correct. Yes.
I guess my only concern would be the Hanley piece. When was it? What was the date last year?
September 29th of last year.
Were they still under construction?
That's what I was wondering.
Yes,
And you guys made it through without any issues at that?
correct.
Well,
Right.
should be.
Which would be less traveled, I would assume, under construction, but,
Yeah.
I mean, as long as we have officers stationed across Hanley, that would be my only concern. That, and then maybe letting the businesses within the business park know that it's going on.
Absolutely.
Did you do that last year?
I don't believe that was done last year, but we have a much stronger team this year that will be doing a lot more communication and refinement. Now that we've got
Gotcha.
one under our belt, we've learned a few things.
Sure.
Yeah, but definitely the business park.
Because I know some trucking back there could be an issue.
Absolutely. Any other concerns?
Any questions? No, chief?
Move to approve, what were the,
Turning point.
yeah, but she was talking about a few changes.
Reaching out to the business
Okay.
park, I think, is
Alright.
one of them.
Okay, you weren't changing the route.
The only change to the route would be at the very last, maybe third
Oh.
of a mile at the finish line.
Okay, and the
It
finish
wouldn't
line.
impact
Okay, so we don't have
Hudson.
to worry about that here.
No.
Okay, yeah, move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We'll recommend approval at our next council meeting.
Okay, perfect. Will you need me in attendance there? Recommended?
Probably not, but I would if be available
Absolutely. Okay.
in case questions come up.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And
You're
I'll be in
welcome.
communication with you, Officer Willems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 11, Mr. Warnken is here. Is that Mr. Warnken?
Well, now, hold on here. Are you asking me to
Can we
move it?
move that up
Okay.
since he's here?
Okay.
I wanted to verify that that was him
Okay.
first,
right.
before I ask. Can we move it up?
Yep. Come up to the podium, state your name and address, Mr. Warnken. Oh.
Problem. I did it in Taekwondo.
Well, we won't mess with you.
Move to approve? No, I'm just kidding.
Hi, I'm Jerry Walker, live at 915 12th Street, and I was wondering if we could do anything about people we have stop signs up at the top of, where Fillmore and 12th Street cross. There's stop signs. People seem like they just do California stops. They go right through there a lot of times. Some people do stop, but other times they just don't pay attention to the stop sign. I was always taught you should stop at the stop sign before the crosswalk, and then if you can't see, then pull up a little further and then stop again. But that's a bad place there because there's a lot of students that are, walking through there from the school because it's a back, there's a back sidewalk that goes up to the school there. Mm-hmm. Could we maybe do something about it? I don't know if we could, but I hate to see anybody get hurt there. I watch out, the front kitchen window and I can see, what's happening.
Jeff, have we had any accident reports up there as of lately?
No, not that I can remember. It sounds more like an enforcement issue than anything that you guys would have to do, so we can
My
certainly
suggestion
look at
would
that.
be for the next month in enforcement, and then if there's issues that you see, contact Joyce again. And
well, today there was a police car there for a while, and it seemed like it helped. It was parked by the mailboxes.
Tends to have that effect.
So I was thinking maybe I should get a fake squad car and park it out there.
So if that's okay with you, the direction I think we should take is let's monitor
I just
it for a
doesn't
month.
make, what if somebody does get hurt there? I mean, they're going, it's just like some of them really barrel through there,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen all the time, but it's more time than once they'll go, just, I don't know if you know what a California stop is like. They just kind of slow down and just keep going.
It's a rolling stop. What I'm suggesting is what we're going to do is monitor it for a month. And our
Would be
next
good.
meeting,
Well,
you contact Joyce, and if there's any issues, we will have enforcement up there.
I could make videos if you want.
What times of days are you noticing this more often?
It varies, sometimes people are really good. It seems like they'll stop there, but then other times they just, slow down and just keep going,
All throughout the day, or
it used to be a yield signs there for a while. It was, different times of the day.
okay.
Pretty much around when school buses and things are going on, then people slow down. But today I was watching out there. There was a couple cars that just zoomed right through.
So more in the middle of the day, not even during the beginning and end of school.
Depends on the people or something. Maybe I don't understand.
Okay. All right.
But to me, a stop sign is a stop sign. I go to work really early. I work part-time at the Fleet Farm. I'm up at 3 o'clock and I go to work early. I stop for every red light or stop sign that I see. I don't go through any stop signs, even though there's nobody out hardly on the road.
Okay.
And you're saying that it's both directions. It's not just northbound, but the
Tonight there
southbound
was,
people
tonight, it's not, sometimes it's coming the other direction too, but the majority of it, I think, is the ones that are going
Heading
north.
north. Mhm.
Yeah. But I think it's a good idea to watch it there because you have a lot of students. Now, today there was a student standing right by the end of the sidewalk there, and one car came up and it went, right. I think that they thought that he was standing waiting for somebody to pick him up, which they do. They stand there. But what if they weren't and they just stepped out in front of the car, and the car keeps going? They were going to try to. There's not really any crosswalk thing painted on there either, is there? I don't think there is.
No, I don't. Probably not.
No, because
I
there's no
didn't see any.
sidewalks there either.
Yeah, there's no. The sidewalk comes right to the, just to the, ends up, right into Fillmore or whatever, kind of connects.
Keep in communication with
Yes.
them. Jeff, do your thing with enforcement, and then we'll revisit this at our next safety meeting.
Yeah.
So if we need to do more, such as more signage, more crosswalk painting, we can address it then.
Well, I think it's better that people stop, even though maybe it's not, it's not a real busy intersection, but next thing you know, somebody will get run over or something.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to come down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joyce will be in touch with you.
Yeah, okay. And then Melanie, you'll put it on the next agenda? Okay.
All right, number 4, we're going to go to discussion possible action on Hudson Rotary Hudson event in Lakefront Park on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019, 5 to 9. Mary and Tom. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Mary Evans. I live in St. Joseph Township, but we're representing both Rotary clubs, and I have an address for Hudson Rotary. It's P.O. Box 393, if you want to reach us. And this is Tom Van Pelt so we're both Rotary clubs. We're seeking approval for a new event in Hudson, and it's actually May 23rd, Randy. Your agenda said the 22nd, and that was going to be a setup day.
Okay.
So it's the 23rd, Thursday night from 5 to 9 o'clock at Lakefront Park. And we're hoping to get very many of the local restaurants for food, and we'll have all tickets in advance because I understand there's no selling tickets in the park. So that would be with some wine and beer vendors and possibly spirits if we can talk to the council. I'm not sure how that'll go.
I think the picnic license, I'm not sure on spirits, but
It's only wine and beer on the picnic license.
Yep.
I don't know if there's a
So they'd have
separate-
to make an exception. There's no other.
There's no other exception unless you have a license.
Right. How many food vendors do you have, or you've got quite a few booths there?
We're allowing for a maximum of 37, but we haven't started yet, except we did talk to some of them, like Pete Foster, before we even started the whole thing to see if he wanted it. And we've got a list of about that many to go and ask. So
Okay.
I suspect it'll be less than that the first year.
So
And we're
you're-
hoping for 500 people the first year.
500. And you're really in the early stages of it? I know you've been
Yes.
planning it for a while, but this is your first crack at getting your vendors lined up?
Yes, we've got the list and the names, and they can go out now and check. And we just voted on the price of $50 in advance.
Okay, so all of
So we've
these
got-
are restaurants, or are you going to have shops, or?
All restaurants, it's going to be a food and wine and beer event
Okay.
if we can't get the distillery that's in New Richmond.
Okay.
Then we've got picnic tables, we've got fencing lined up. We have to surround the entire perimeter. And we would be interested in some nighttime security where we would pay if anyone wants off-duty, time and a half, whatever, for the evening shift, because the event's on Thursday, but they won't take the tents and tables back till Friday morning, and we need to protect them. And otherwise, during the event, Rotary would be walking around to make sure no one jumps the fence.
Okay.
If that sounds good with you guys?
Yeah, it'd be on a contract rate that we have, and I can talk to you outside of this, and we can talk about that.
I think for nighttime shift, we'd rather have you than some of our volunteers.
Yeah,
Feels
that's no
safe.
problem. We can do whatever you need us to do. So.
Great.
Any
Thanks.
questions for the committee?
I have one. Are they going to be? Oh,
Oh, okay, so if they wanted to do the spirits, are they able to get are temporary licenses available for that?
I don't.
No.
No?
No.
And I don't want to answer on that I don't know.
On
Say
the
something
printed,
we don't.
yeah, the printed media says no. I mean,
Okay.
it just isn't available as an option. So we'll talk to the city, see if there's an exception they make.
Okay,
So
that's something that has to be run
you
across the.
contingently put it on a motion if that was chief.
so are they going to be doing cooking on site or bringing it all in?
Bringing it in. We're
So they
not,
won't be having fryers and cookers and all that there?
No.
Okay.
no.
That's my
So we're not going to
question.
provide electric for all of that.
Or gas or anything, so, I mean,
Just their flames under the burner they might have, right? What are those called?
well, like.
Sterno.
Sterno's not, yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not going to be
Just
bringing
warmers.
LP tanks and all that and generators, okay.
I don't,
That's like my only
I don't
concern is
know.
that make sure if they have that we'd get a hold of us to make sure everything's kind of set up and.
Those might be some questions we need to fine tune.
yeah, I didn't think about LP tanks, so run it past, you'd
And-
want to inspect it the day of?
Probably, yeah, and we can even talk to you. I mean, if you just let us know, we can get together beforehand, kind of let you know what maybe the requirements are, so that you can tell the people, so that there's not big surprises and that. But if you're just bringing everything in, it'll be easier if they're not cooking on site. So
Right. Thought that would be
just
best.
kind of let us know once you find out, and we can work it out. But just as long as we're kind of notified ahead of time. So
Absolutely.
And we might have some music with it. We're not sure. It wouldn't be in the band shell because we're not reserving that.
Any other questions? Tom, did you have anything to add?
No, Mary's covered it.
She said you were going to do all the
He's the
talking.
chairman. So.
Any other questions?
No, it looks like a good event. I'll move to approve.
Okay, I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will move to approve. Would need to be contingent on a couple questions, though.
Contingent on
Liquor license question, or not the liquor license, but the spirits. Hard
spirits,
liquor.
right?
And,
And of the fire, if they're cooking on site, they need to be
Correct.
inspected by the fire chief.
correct.
Okay,
Got
I'll
it.
second that.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? we'll recommend, and then conditional, we'll hopefully have the answers, hopefully, by council.
21st, yeah.
But you obviously have some time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Tom. All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I have to excuse myself for another meeting, but just like one quick announcement. Our architect will be at the January 21st council meeting and presenting the rendition of the fire station to council at that point, just so kind of a heads up for everybody.
Very good.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good meeting. All right, back up to number 3 on the regular agenda. Discussion possible action to restrict parking on the north side of St. Croix Street between 2nd and 3rd Street.
So I was contacted by the resident that lives in the alleyway. He's not able to be here today, but I did go up there and take some photographs of the area. His complaint was when he's coming out of the alley southbound onto St. Croix Street, with cars parked there, he can't see. There's some vegetation issues there too. But he noted on the other side of the street, on the south side of St. Croix Street, that there is no parking already because of the alley over there.
Actually, I was here when we put those signs up. It was because the turning, there was no visibility and you couldn't turn anything up. Buses were having issues.
Okay.
And that's why we put no parking on that side.
Okay.
This side is a different story. We were trying to be nice and allowing them to park somewhere.
Right. And he admitted that it normally wasn't an issue, but there's been a new tenant that moved in the area that's got a multitude of vehicles that they tend to park there, and it's making it awful difficult for him to get out.
Now in the pictures,
Morning.
is that the biggest issue, or is it the tree that's on that?
Well, I think it's probably both.
Okay.
It's probably both, but I'm not going to dispute that the vegetation there is an issue also.
Right.
And I don't know. I haven't looked closely at it enough to
Where
see
do they go?
If it's a code compliance issue there, or if it's in compliance or not. But
Is it a rental on that one house right there on the street?
I don't know if it's still a rental. It used to be. I don't know if it still is. He said he was traveling for work this month, but I said I'd still bring it up and at least have a discussion about it. And if we wanted to continue it to next month, we'd try to get it on the agenda for next month too, where he could actually come and voice his concerns.
What about painting the curb yellow?
Well, that would mean that they couldn't park there.
No, I get that, but so that they're not so close to the alley?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like,
sure, allowing a distance between the alley entrance.
yeah.
It's an option.
Just
It's done other places around town.
I'm not sure if you can put it down until spring. And Mike, can you put that paint down in the cold?
So you'd have to put a sign,
Would you have to put a sign though?
well, no parking here to alley.
Not if you had it yellow.
Okay.
Is that right, Mike? You want to step?
I would tell the gentleman we would address it in the spring when we start spraying curb, that we'll spray that one. Just have to kind of.
I mean, I don't know if that's the solution.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think maybe we should hold it over to our next meeting
Okay.
before we, take a look at it a little better.
Okay.
Monitor
And
it.
I went through, the time of day I took the pictures, I think was 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, right? It didn't appear to be a big issue. I haven't gone back there in the evening or in the super early morning hours to see what it looks like.
Well, I got to believe when the buses are coming through there, there's the same issue we had on the other
I
side.
got to believe it's pretty tight.
So we may be just prolonging the inevitable of saying no parking. What's your thoughts?
Well, my concern would be where will the person park?
Right, where are we pushing them?
Probably around the corner onto Third.
Hmm.
Is there parking allowed even on Second there?
Not second
On
yet.
2nd Street, yes.
Yes, okay, so then they could park on Second as well. So,
Want to wait a month?
so is it just the area between the alley and Second Street,
I would think that's,
or is it the whole block?
My interpretation, my impression was it was the whole block.
really?
Because if the person moved the cars to the other side of the alley, there would still be an issue.
Yeah, he said that block between 2nd Street and 3rd Street on the north side of St. Croix Street. So to me, that means both west of the alley and east of the alley.
Why, what are you thinking, Joyce?
Well, I'm thinking that if he only needs west of the alley, then that would be doable. But I hate to block off both sides of the street for parking if it's needed. But it is a safety issue too. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought would be to just no parking. And err on the caution of safety because of the buses that come through there.
Okay.
I don't know, all I've seen in your pictures was 2 cars parked there, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I go through that intersection often enough, but I haven't really noticed any problems because I'm not coming out of the alley. So.
Yeah, and I did go through and drive through the alley, and to me, it was more of an issue with the vegetation there than the vehicles.
How about we take a look at it, bring it
Okay.
up next month, and maybe the gentleman can come, and then we can
Okay.
make a sound decision then,
All right.
instead of just
Okay.
knee-jerking. That's
So
all.
Sounds
next
good to
month.
me.
Mhm.
In the meantime, that vegetation, is that city? Could you tell when you drove it?
I
Would be-
did not get out to inspect it and take
gotta be.
measurements and
Either way,
things,
it's
so-
probably in the right of way,
But it comes right up to the sidewalk.
so we
So-
could take it out if need be.
Right.
Okay?
We like talking about it next
What's
time.
the process for taking something out like that? Would you notify the homeowner and
Oh, there's a whole new process in place
oh,
now.
okay, that same process that we just went through, we just
Yes.
approved? Okay.
Oh,
Yes. We're not just going to drive up there and rip it out. There's going to be an engaging conversation with the property owner.
scratch that. Okay. So we'll postpone that till next. Do we want a
Okay.
formal motion on that?
Okay, I'll make the motion that we postpone until next time.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Number 6, discussion possible action on Vine Street at Wisconsin Street intersection. Mike.
Good evening, Michael Mraz, Public Works Director. Brought this to Safety Committee tonight based upon discussion that we had at a previous council meeting. Randy wanted us to, or wanted myself to look into the Vine Street, Wisconsin Street intersection because we're going to be redoing Vine Street this upcoming season, summer season. And because of the high school and some of the traffic flow issues up there, pedestrian safety, if we're going to make any improvements, now is the time to do so at that intersection. And so what I brought for you tonight is kind of a general map, a layout of some turning lanes, based upon the recommendations of a traffic engineer, with the thought that we could eventually install traffic signals. I did have them do a traffic study to count the vehicles and pedestrians that are at that intersection. Of course, they came back very high in the morning and very high in the evening. If you look at it in total, according to the MUDCO handbook, it doesn't warrant a traffic signal at that intersection. However, based upon the conflicts with the traffic and the pedestrians, the high pedestrian use, we could utilize, that intersection could use traffic signals, and we could have the engineers write us a letter justifying the use for signals there. And the reason I bring that up is because I asked the engineer about that, and he says if the intersection doesn't warrant traffic signals, and you put them in and something happens there, like an accident or a fatal or something, the lawyers can turn to that standard and say, why were they in there to begin with? Because they weren't warranted at that intersection. So you need to have something in writing from a traffic engineer to justify putting those traffic signals at that intersection. So just to keep that in mind. So for tonight's purpose, or my recommendation would be to, as part of the project, to include the installation of the turning lanes, the conduit. We'll have to move a median on that eastern side of the intersection to include that left southbound turn lane, just to get the infrastructure in there, and then include the traffic signals at a later CIP inclusion. It'd probably be 2001. Just based upon the budget that we have set aside
21.
for the Vine Street. Unless the council wants to find other monies to include the traffic signals now and get it done with. But they estimate about $200,000 addition for
Did you say
traffic
that they
signals.
would sign off on it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, they would.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So when you say conduit, that's just you're prepping for traffic signal.
Yeah,
right?
correct. Yep.
Question on the traffic signal. I don't know how they work. Can they be tooled to where, it's like a flashing yellow during non-peak times and then
Yep.
it operates during peak times?
Yep.
I mean, would that be within, excuse me, within their safety standards at the state or whatever? County?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look into that, but there are options to go into flash mode. Like our lights downtown, they do go into a flash mode at, I believe it's 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff.
you're
But
leaving downtown.
so there is that option, to go into a flash mode during off-peak times.
Gotcha.
So
Ideally, I would like to see us find the money, but
Yeah, same here. I mean, if we're going to do it, why not do it now? We know we need to do it, my opinion.
we have not yet gone for bond on that, I don't believe, so
How much,
now's the time to,
yeah, right.
how much would it save putting them in at this
Now.
time rather than retrofitting later?
You're probably just, it's just price of materials, basically, because you're going to have all the infrastructure in there. It's just buying the poles and hiring an electric company to come in and install them. So, I mean,
see, we truly don't know what traffic the new campus is going to bring, and that's why I had brought it up, because I don't know if you guys, were you here for Wisconsin Street? But the whole thing was, at the time, they told us no, because we were looking at a roundabout or something. At that time, it didn't warrant it. We didn't find the money. It was getting higher and higher as it was. Now, because of the scale of the school and everything, I think now is the time for us to at least make it, stub it out,
Yeah.
for lack of a better
absolutely.
term.
Yep.
But if you think we can bond and good find the money, I mean,
Yeah.
Where are we in that process?
That'd be a Brenda question.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I can certainly ask her and we can discuss it at the next council meeting if it's not too late to add those monies and how it would affect the overall bonding.
I think we should bring it to the full council to discuss with Brenda,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then at least a recommendation from us that we stub it out.
Yeah. And, even if we do alternative bid for traffic light installation, at least we'll get a number. And
Was 200 conservative, or?
that was ballpark. He said 200, 225. So it's more, yeah.
Okay.
So anyways. And then the other recommendation that I just want to bring up that Glenn had reached out to me about was, if you look at Wisconsin Street, if you're going northbound on Wisconsin, you come to the intersection. Apparently there was a previous proposal to include a left-hand turn lane that would go west on Vine. So you'd have a left, a straight, and then a right-hand turn on Wisconsin. And the thought behind that would be that left-hand is, say if people are trying to go straight and it's backed up, people have the option of turning left onto Vine and using that western entrance into the high school there. So that was added. We did tell Bolton and Mink to add that to the construction plans as well.
No, that's a good idea, though.
Yeah. So just to
Because
let
it
you know.
was backing up like there was no tomorrow when they were under construction.
Yeah.
And everybody was going everywhere.
Yeah, but apparently there's enough room to fit that in there. We'd have to move that median over to the west, but apparently there's enough traffic room there to fit that in there. So just want to make you aware of that as well. That came to fruition today. So I guess for tonight, I guess looking for just a recommendation to proceed with the stubbing in of the infrastructure as part of the Vine Street project.
All right, so if we didn't go with the traffic lights, we'd go with the four-way stops.
Yep.
How does the four-way stop, how bad is the congestion in the morning and in the afternoon when the,
Chief, you
It's
probably.
bad. Traffic is backed up to the Y and beyond.
would traffic signals relieve some of that, or, because, I mean, they're all going through,
Traffic engineer, I
Yeah,
guess, I don't
so
know.
the traffic signals probably wouldn't relieve the backup, it would relieve the pedestrian vehicle conflicts, because right now,
oh.
you know,
okay.
people are, the
So
students
would-
are walking across, and you got people turning out of the school, going east, or going to the east, and they don't know, you know, who has the turn, who has that, and there's potential for that conflict
So it
there.
would make it safer for the pedestrians?
It would definitely make it 100 times safer for the pedestrians. Yeah.
Okay. That's
And
where the
bikers.
value
Because no
is.
matter, like I
And
said,
bikers.
Yeah.
and bikers, but yeah, no matter what you do there, even if it's a roundabout, you're still going to have backup just because of
Just because of the volume.
there's one
Well,
spot
yeah,
to
the
basically go
volume
into
is-
the high school.
I'm wondering if we can make a recommendation to take this to finance to see if we can find the money for the traffic signals.
Sure.
Um,
But he's already put in it for, or you're
Yep. So
going to put a
the
change order in already.
plans are being developed now, and they're going to have the inclusion of this left-hand turn lanes in infrastructure.
Gotcha. So
I would agree with you. but
I
if you
move to
want
recommend the changes as you outline with the left turn signals to full council. Do you want me to do, like, I could do two different motions? So I'll just make that motion to move that to council.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Aye.
Aye.
And I'll also make, sorry,
Pass.
sorry.
You hungry?
Yeah, actually, I am. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. And then I'll make the motion to take the traffic signals to finance to see if we can't find the money, see if we can find the money to install traffic signals during the
And I
initial
can maybe bring a
construction.
better number, more accurate number at that time too, so we know what we're actually dealing with here.
That would help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Mike.
Yep. Don't run away, you've got one more.
I think we're on number 9. Discussion possible action on Food Truck Festival, July 27, 2019, on First Street between Walnut Street and Vine Street, 12 to 10 p.m.
Yeah, so I'll just introduce, Tom is here from the Food Truck Festival Committee. Their company or their organization reached out to the city to have host an event here. Food trucks, wine, beer, yard games, so on and so forth. They've been in contact with Deb and Jen, and just wanted to introduce him tonight, have him here, answer any questions. There's a map that should have been in your packet with kind of the proposed location. It's something that Hudson hasn't done in the past. Bringing it to committee for discussion and answer any questions that you may have for Tom. I don't know, Tom, if you maybe want to come up here and just, it's Tom, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Got that right.
Tom, go ahead, state your name and your address. And
And just introduce the event. Appreciate it. Answer any questions.
Sure. My name is Tom Broik, 3319 Colfax Avenue, South Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so we as an organization have been around for over 7 years. We've had a number of events, particularly, in Minnesota. The Uptown Minneapolis event. We do Anoka and we do St. Paul. And we've been very carefully discussing and looking into where we want to make, kind of our next move. And we came across the city of Hudson. Jess, my business partner, who has 2 sick twins, unfortunately, today couldn't be here. But she has a lot of ties to the area and has talked about it for years. And we've really kind of always had it as an idea to potentially bring the event here. And with that being said, we appreciate the opportunity to at least discuss the potential to bring it over here. What we would like to do is bring over 40 food trucks from Minneapolis and from Wisconsin, St. Paul as well. Create an atmosphere where, it's family friendly, it's a free event, where there's a lot of activity, based around food, very creative, different types of food. And, would like to bring in a lot of local vendors as well.
That wasn't in the proposal. That's new to me. Local vendors?
Well, local vendors and crafters, things of that nature. Food, we do unfortunately have to draw the line with it being an actual food truck. So I know that kind of limits food sales, as like potential food vendors. Just for continuity, it'll be branded as a food truck. Hudson Food Truck Festival. People will expect food trucks.
So the food trucks charge for their whatever. What's a typical price of the food truck?
Of a food truck item?
Yeah.
So they have special. It wouldn't necessarily be like their normal lunch fare or dinner fare, so to speak. They have kind of special items for these festivals. We always make sure that they have at least a $5 or $6 item so that people can kind of share. But they could be anywhere between, $4, $5, $6 all the way up to $12, depending upon what it is. But I mean, each truck is an independent business, and so we have guidelines and we work with everybody. But we want to make sure that food is accessible to everyone, so we always make sure that there's at least one item that they have that people can share.
What would the city gain by allowing?
Sure. So our intention is to bring a lot of people into the city of Hudson that haven't necessarily been here before. We'll be doing a lot of marketing on our end to bring people to this event. Each food truck will be doing a lot of marketing to bring people to this event. Our reach, via social media and everything like that, is, it's grown over the years, and we hope to continue to grow it. But I mean, when we did the event in Anoka, we had over 600,000 reach for that event just on one social media channel. So in essence, what we hope to do is bring people here that haven't necessarily been here, because it's a beautiful town. We've got a beautiful setup right on the river, and we would hope that people will come. Maybe have heard of Hudson, haven't necessarily been here, but walk around, see the shops, and realize that it's a place to come back to.
A couple big concerns, and quite frankly, the legal aspect of it is our ordinances do not allow for this kind of event to happen.
Sure.
So as of right now, this committee would be going against its ordinance to allow you to do it. And so without changing that, this is kind of a moot point. And I don't want to waste your time, but
sure.
I think it's a great idea, but I think there's a little more to be due diligence to be done, I think, on the city's part to look into this. I know there's someone here to speak on behalf of some of the other businesses in town.
Sure.
In regards to the event, and what it would look like for us, because we've had issues in the past of blocking off the street and it doesn't work. So that there's some pushback there, and quite frankly, I'm one of the stronger ones that don't like doing that. For one, because it's the alternative route for Highway 35, and you got 2 blocks you're looking to block off, 40 people, and we have a parking issue in our wonderful community. So we're trying to figure that out as well, where we would put everybody. If you bring 5,000 people or more or less, or
sure.
even close to that
sure.
number. And I know they're not coming in all at once.
Right, yeah. So at any given, as you know, at any given time, there'll be probably under 1,000 people there, but just throughout the hours of operation. And, just drawing upon our previous experience working with the city of Anoka in Minnesota, very similar setup to Hudson, just in general. It was going against their ordinance at the time too, and it's not that it's a special event that kind of makes it okay, if you will. It's not like there's food trucks selling on their streets every day kind of thing. It's the permitting process and everything around there that they were able to make some exceptions based solely upon the fact that it was a one-day event.
We typically here in Hudson, you're from Minneapolis, we have a lot of business downtown, and we are struggling to find parking. We have wonderful restaurants.
Yes.
And
Yep.
this is one of their busiest weekends that you would be taking up their business and parking in the city and all sorts of other things that go along with that. I have a concern with that.
Sure.
And I think it's a great idea, but I don't know if we're the right community for it.
And with that said, and I appreciate those points, we've seen this everywhere we've ever worked within. There's always immediate pushback, and that's understood because it's very counterintuitive to think that bringing food trucks to a city for one day will bring more business to the local restaurants. However, we are a one-day event. We're free, and so if for whatever reason somebody, what we've seen in our events is people will come, they'll grab one bite to eat at the food truck or at a food truck, and they'll be like, "Hey, great, we kind of saw what we needed to do," and then they walked by how many shops on the way there, and they go back. That we don't have air conditioning, we're only serving beer would be the thought too.
You say free, I believe that would be kind of incorrect because you pay a $500 special permit fee, but then all your vendors and then whatever you're making money, but yet our businesses lose the money that you're taking from the customer base.
The law of large numbers would say, though, that if, say, there's 5,000 extra people in town throughout the course of a day, that there'll be some, shut off, if you will.
I get what you're saying, but in Hudson, we don't have that problem on the weekend in the middle of the summer. Quite frankly, it's very busy.
Sure.
Maybe it's the wrong time for it. Maybe there's some other time we could look at doing it. I know there's some other folks that would probably want to speak to this, so.
Sure.
Do you guys have a question?
Yeah, I would like to ask some questions. I don't disagree with you, Randy, but I do want to bring it back to public safety, because I think some of the stuff that we're talking about probably would be good for full council to kind of discuss. Just my opinion. I have a couple questions on the safety licensure for food trucks cross state lines. What does that look like?
Sure. My business partner, Jess, she is actually the executive director for the Minnesota Food Truck Association, which deals with all permitting and everything like that. She would certainly be the best one to answer that particular question. Gotcha. From my understanding is that there's a lot of trucks that do cross state lines. There are certain protocols and processes for that, but we work closely with all them, and we would be submitting all of their paperwork, on their behalf. We'd collect everything with all of their state and licensors and everything of that nature.
Gotcha. Would you be selling tickets for these, or is this like a customer's coming up with cash and just paying?
Each truck does accept card now too, but it'd be cash or card. And again, those are all independent businesses with different varying prices of their items, so it'd be too difficult to control via a ticket.
Gotcha. You started out by saying that you're an organization. Are you a nonprofit or are you a business?
So we are a business. However, we do work closely with two different nonprofits, one being the Minnesota Food Truck Association, and then the second being Feed My Starving Children, if you guys are familiar with that organization at all. We raised over 100,000 meals last year, and then we, that's a big part of our existence.
But this event is specifically not a fundraising
It's
event.
not specifically a fundraiser, however, there is a big charitable aspect to it.
Sure. Thought I had another thing. When I started looking at this and thinking about an ordinance change, called up Devin, and I don't know if this would be possible. If we were to look at changing an ordinance, my apprehension around that would be changing an ordinance
For one event.
for everything, right? Because then all of a sudden we see food, but could there be something that is for a special event that would have to come through this body or some sort of body. So that's just my sort of thoughts.
The other question, and Joyce, if you got questions, I'll get right back to you. Your liquor license would have to be based out of a Wisconsin property, a Wisconsin resident or company.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we'd be working, I know, with Bill's distributing, but however, to pull the actual license, we'd have to work with something that has a local, presence, and we'd be more than willing to, explore what that means.
Mm-hmm. Joyce, did you have any questions?
There was an event last summer in Eau Claire with food trucks. Were you involved with that?
We were not involved with that. However, I'm familiar with the event that you're speaking of.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's been a lot of, like I previously mentioned, like kind of crossing of state lines. So it's not anything new in that matter. And we food safety and safety in general is a big part of what we are too. So we make sure that they have all the appropriate licensures and that that all of their trucks and everything like that are yearly inspected. We encourage the inspector to actually come out to all of our events because we bring so many trucks to the same place at the same time as well.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Are you pretty, how do I want to say, tied to having this festival be downtown Hudson?
Yes. I mean, I would be open to exploring some other options. However, I think that it's just such a beautiful location right on the lakefront. We want to be close to the action. We want them people to have things to do and see and not be like, say, in a parking lot somewhere. We want them to be able to walk to all the local businesses and see all of the local fare.
Gotcha. Because I have the same concerns about First Street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, closing that for that amount of time, I mean...
Yeah, would White Camp Park be a better venue for this? From the standpoint of not having to close streets.
Mm-hmm.
Or what about the dike? I mean, would that be even possible? I suppose you need power and all this kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, each truck, has their own power. However, we would need our, to bring power for, say, stage or a beer truck too.
Mm.
I'd like to hear from Mary Claire, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
You state your name and your address for the record, please.
Thank you. Mary Claire Potter, Hudson Chamber of Commerce, 502 2nd Street. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I mean, we are so fortunate to have the beautiful riverfront and lakefront park to attract so many different events. As this is a public safety committee, I too, on behalf of the other businesses, have great concerns about closing that street for safety reasons, and that's really what the key issue that you want to look at too. And so I'm just going to kind of add a little bit to what Randy said though. I mean, we have 12 Saturdays in the summer for the restaurants and so forth to really make their money to help cover the months of January and February and March when we don't have quite as many people downtown. So this is one of the top 3 Saturdays for them. And I think that's a huge concern. It also doesn't fit within our current ordinance. I think that's a big issue if we're going to start making exceptions and doing things like that. The Phipps Center for the Arts, they have productions going on that weekend. It's a high density area where we already have parking concerns, and those parking concerns are only going to be enhanced with closing that street, which causes even more safety issues when people are coming into town and they don't know where to go, and that is very concerning. I really think we need more time to look at this issue. I think it's very a quick expectation to have a turnaround, and do this on July 27th already without us doing our due diligence. I tried to reach out to some folks in St. Paul this afternoon just to see how it affected their businesses and so forth, and wasn't able to reach some people. So I would encourage you not to move on this tonight. We can certainly review it more, but I think there's just enough safety issues in addition to all the business concerns for you to cause to pause. Thank you.
Mary Claire, would a September date be a better idea, do you think?
Well, we have the Spirit of St. Croix
Yes.
Days in September,
Mm-hmm.
so No.
Okay, there aren't a lot of dates in September available.
There aren't.
What do you think about different location other than downtown?
I think certainly a different location is something that could be looked at, but, again, the safety issues and the ordinance issue.
Right. Yep.
But I think a different location could certainly be looked at.
I'm just thinking from a business, I'm sorry,
Right.
I just interrupted you.
No. But I mean, I appreciate because it is a beautiful venue and you want to be in that area. But I think from the business perspective, I think, that's, you have bricks and mortar here that pay taxes and pay salaries and that fuel the economy for us here in Hudson. I mean, that we need to look at that too.
Thanks, Mike.
I gotta say one thing. My staff, we did reach out to Anoka, and we did get a hold of representatives from Anoka, and I'd be remiss to not mention this. Not saying that I'm for the event or against the event or anything like that, but I just want all the information out on the table. They raved about the event, and they had the same concerns that we are having right now as far as the downtown businesses and taking business away from the downtown business. They saw an influx of people within their community, and in fact they had more than enough people going into downtown businesses and venturing out and checking out the town. So I just want to say that my staff did reach out and did get in touch with someone that has had this event in their city, and they're continuing to have this event come back in their community. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Not saying that would happen here or anything like that. I just want to put all the facts out on the table. So that's all.
I guess from my perspective, I would be open to it, but not at that venue and not at that date.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I'll second
guess.
that. And I think it would be up to them to have to come back to us after we do a little more research as well to pick a different date, pick a different place.
Yeah, and maybe after we've got all of our parking implemented.
Yeah.
Because blocking off 2 streets or two blocks, that right there is a killer, I think.
Any further discussion? Do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, I guess wanted to reiterate that I do understand that in a lot of regards it's very counterintuitive, but this is good for business. It brings people here. It brings a lot of eyes that maybe haven't necessarily been here. The city of Anoka was really happy with the event too for those reasons, because it did seem to bring kind of an echo effect of additional business down the road as well. But I appreciate everybody's time and their consideration, and we're willing to work with you guys and make any some changes and everything like that. So I mean, this is just kind of the ideal world. So we really appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the motion is to deny the application and have them look for a different date, different place?
Correct.
And I seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. So you would have to come back with a different thing. Number 10, discussion possible action on EMS facilities at 201 Ward Avenue. Bill, is this you?
Yes, it is. Sorry, we're jumping all over the place today. Which item is it?
Number 10, discussion possible action on EMS facilities.
Yes, so we just had an EMS commission meeting just this last Tuesday, kind of recap after our other EMS meeting. And I was talking with Josh about looking at, in that meeting on Monday, we talked about taking a look at total cost, right? Not only if we were to go with an operation like Lakeview, what would happen with XYZ? And I think one of those things that we want to look at is obviously the financials. Just one piece of it is the financials. But going into that, we have to kind of question, what is that building going to be? And we have that $850,000 proposal out there for renovating the building on Ward. I guess my question is do we think that that is a good enough proposal that we should be comparing against when we meet on the 4th? Or should we be looking at a smaller number? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not suggesting we go out an RFP necessarily, but I guess I'm just wondering what should we use that number for the basis of comparison?
It would be useful to have more information and
So pretty much what it boils down to, the partners, Town of Troy, North Hudson, are, that's the white elephant in the room as far as these RFP discussions have been going on and stuff. I don't like Five Bugles quote that they give. I don't know why we can't use, a regular builder that's in the area here or something like that. I just wanted the ability to go out to get some non-firm pricing before this next RFP meeting, so I can give, not solid numbers obviously, but at least a better number than 850,000. So I don't want this building thing to be a deciding factor as far as the EMS RFPs go. I have a feeling that's at the top of the list as far as the partners go, with as far as who's gonna, a pro and con, I should say, against the EMS agencies for the RFP. Mm-hmm. And I don't want, it's truly been a city decision. It's been turfed onto EMS in this RFP discussion now for some reason. And I just don't want that to be a deciding factor in the outcome of these RFPs. So I would like to be able to go out, and obviously we'll know that they're not firm numbers, that it'll have to be bid at a later date if St. Croix MS stays. But I would just like the ability to go out there and then at least have some other numbers to use besides that big number of 850,000.
I don't know the legal parameters, Josh, to be able to go out there and do that. I think if you made a couple phone calls, and I don't know if it's legal for you to call and say, hey, can you give me a ballpark? Go up and do the measuring and all that other stuff, and then try to throw something together. I don't know. You'd have to talk to council about that.
Right. And that's obviously why we brought it here, is we wanted to obviously move it forward a step to council. Doesn't leave much time after that in between that council meeting and the next one. But
to me, 850 seems high for what you wanted to do.
Right. It's a remodel. It's not a new structure by any means. So I just want a better I gotta have a better number in these RFP discussions, otherwise.
Right. Well, you heard Stan at the meeting. No more building. He's at his levy limit.
Right. So, then I don't know. To me, I don't think it should be included in the RFP discussion.
Well, I think the best
in the RFPs at all. It's a city decision. It's a city decision that's been obviously the white elephant in the room for at least in April it'll be 4 years.
Oh, well.
So
I think the best thing is to pick up the phone, call Catherine and say, hey, can I just get some ballpark figures from local? And my guess is that you're not going to be able to.
Right.
Or at least don't tell her. I don't know.
Yeah, either that or, just move it forward to council or whatever. I just want to be able, it's either that or.
We have to find a solid number for you so you
Correct.
can put it into with the other rest of the numbers.
And we need those numbers in order to make a good decision.
Yeah.
And maybe what we should do is from this, maybe direct Brenda to use a range. When we first started talking about it, it was going to be what, like in the 400s?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were expecting it to be under 500,000.
Right, right. So maybe it would just be directionally giving her the direction to use these numbers. I don't know.
We can certainly do that, I think.
But firm numbers, would be nice. But I don't. To Josh's point, I don't know that we're going to have that by the 4th.
My guess it's an inflated number that was given at 850, obviously, and they're going to go jumping through all the the engineering study, the general contractor, so it's all added in there. My guess is it's an inflated number.
Which is a scary number for a lot of people. So, scary number for a lot of people.
Well, absolutely. Well, then you go back to the other question of why don't we build it with the fire station, and that opens up a whole different issue.
Well, that's even a larger number, though.
Well,
think.
yeah, but that, I don't see how it does, but
Yeah.
the engineers want to get their money, so. I would suggest we go to finance or with Brenda for it, but I would have a conversation with Catherine before you do anything.
Okay.
Because we don't want to hurt the process or impede the process on the RFPs.
Right.
So if we're going to do willy-nilly stuff, we could hurt our process. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I guess if you want to bring it to Brenda or the finance committee to talk about it, might as well bring it there. We are the finance.
Yeah, right.
So I would probably, you'd probably want to move it to that.
So moved.
I'll
Is there-
second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anything else to add to that? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. So we got to get that sooner than later.
Correct.
Okay. We appreciate what you've been doing, Josh.
Thank you.
I mean, I know it hasn't been easy, but just keep it going. We appreciate it. Number 12, informational items. We asked for the drug investigation report. Jeff?
2018, I think you needed the whole report from last year? Yep. So I have that for you. The numbers are not as high as one would anticipate, and there's a couple of variables for that. First of all, we were short one investigator most of the year, as Todd Pearson was promoted to patrol sergeant and left the detective division. And then we had injury that had one detective out for a significant period of time, and then a family leave issue that had another detective out for a period of time. So we're essentially short 2 detectives in our investigations unit the entire year. So our drug detective was tasked with investigating general crimes and wasn't allowed to focus on drug crimes. So if you're curious about the reduction in the cases, that is my interpretation of why those decreases in numbers.
Understanding the situation, we can't let off the gas on this issue. We know the high school is inundated with a lot of marijuana for one, and the other issues that are coming into play, or the other drugs.
Yeah, well, mostly the vaping issue. So kudos to all of you for passing that ordinance, because that's been a huge help.
Okay, well, good.
As far as the drug stuff, the numbers are all there, but essentially 17 meth cases out of the 32. Clearly, meth is here to
Jeff,
stay
how do we
for a
blow
while.
this up to make it more public? How do we get at it? And working with the school and putting the pressure on these people.
You know, I don't know. Back in the early 2000, late 1990s, early 2000s, we were in a real bad methamphetamine epidemic, so to speak. And then the education and the posters and the stories about people that had been addicted to methamphetamine and what they had to deal with. You know, the people would come into the schools and talk about things like that, and that seemed to really help significantly for a while. And then that ended up leading to the prescription drug craze, to the narcotic craze that led to the heroin epidemic that led to all the deaths, and then now the fentanyl and things like that. So how do we blow it up? I don't know. Education and awareness, and
Do we need
continued
more dog
enforcement
searches? Do we need the school to get more heavier-handed with our resource officers up there? What do we need to do to get
Truth
these?
be told, not a lot of these cases are coming out of the schools.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But it's,
So,
it's
I mean,
there.
it's not, yeah, it's there. It's absolutely, it's there. And I don't know how many drug sniffs they did last year. They do 2 or 3. Do you remember?
Are we yielding anything off of that?
No, I think the last time we did a drug sniff at the school, it was actually a construction worker working at the school that got arrested.
Wow.
I think that was the only violation. So, you know, I think with our drug detective able to really focus on drugs and really hammer it home with the task force, because as we all know, we have a drug issue in Hudson, but we have a drug issue everywhere, in every community in the country. And what's tied to Hudson is also tied to Stillwater, is tied to St. Paul, is tied to Minneapolis, is tied to Somerset and Richmond. Yeah, I mean, River Falls, you name it, right? So having that dedicated detective to really work inclusively with that task force, the St. Croix County Task Force that has a DEA task force outfit in the cities that they work with, is instrumental in building and working and creating these cases. We just don't see the numbers from that last year because of our inability to allow our detective to do that. You know, we had more pressing things happening here at that time, and I don't anticipate similar issues like that. It was kind of an anomaly last year. Everything, it was a perfect storm of ridiculousness. But I would anticipate that we see a huge increase in these numbers for 2019.
I mean, there's an event going on tonight when they have the school. What's it called? They're having it up at.
What is that? Rise Together, Rise Up, something
They've
like
got
that.
the room. You know, that sounded like it made a huge impact. Maybe Hudson needs to invest in one of those.
What? The room?
Room.
Well, that's our room that you're talking about.
Okay.
That we got from the Hudson Hospital Foundation
Okay.
charity. So that's where those funds came from. That's our trailer. Other communities use that trailer, right? Richmond has used it a couple times. The Sheriff's Department has used it. That has had a huge impact. And what that does is helps with the communication piece and the awareness piece for the parents, because they might not know what this stuff looks like or how people act to try and hide these things, or the different techniques that kids are using now to hide this stuff from them. So it makes the parents more aware, which obviously has an impact.
Hudson as a whole, as a community, needs to get more involved with this issue to help fix it.
Right.
Squash it.
Right.
Us as a safety committee, as a council, need to get more involved somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the magic answers, but
Well, a lot of it is there aren't enough mental health resources available.
at the
that's-
state level.
Yes, and that's a big issue. So we need to start advocating with our representatives,
Very much
state
so.
level.
That's a big issue statewide. But all that said, we did collect over 500 pounds of prescription medications through the drug take-back program last year. So
And that's just down at yours. I mean, they do it at a couple other places.
that's our department, and then the 2 or 3 community events that they have every year. Yep.
Good. Yeah, that's a big deal. Any
that's
questions
helped
for
a lot.
Jeff on the drug report? Let's revisit that about how we can get more visible and more engaged in the issue of drugs in our community.
Okay.
Okay. Future of the Hudson Dive Team.
So, I wanted to bring this to public safety just as a discussion, because it's also been a big topic in the RFP discussions. Myself and Chief Willems spoke the other night in regards to the dive team, and we both feel very strongly we want the dive team to stay obviously within the city and a city entity. So what myself and Chief Willems discussed is transferring the dive team from St. Croix EMS to the Hudson Police Department, as far as taking
Sergeant Hartman in charge of it.
that would be for
I would
2019.
assume.
For 2019, it would stay the same that it is today, correct? And then obviously, Glenn Hartman is here tonight to speak, upon it. I would like to see him stay in charge of it. He's ran it for as long as it's been here.
Do you want to say anything, Glenn?
So
Keep it to 5 minutes, though, because I know you like to chatter.
We're all hungry.
I didn't bring any food if I'd have known. Glenn Hartman, St. Croix EMS, 221 Walnut Street. So, yeah, Josh asked me to come and answer any questions that you guys might have about the dive team. Obviously, when Josh called me, it sounds like there's been some discussions going on, so I'm an open book, whatever you like to do.
I think you've done a great job, and I think it makes common sense to move it under the police department, provided you can't retire, because then who's going to...
I would like to have some discussion before. I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to go. Maybe it is. I don't know. I think that it's something that I would thank you for asking me.
Well, I thought I told. I thought I was telling.
Joyce, where would you like to go for dinner tonight? Yeah, I think it is to really do it justice, to really support the program moving forward. I guess you should understand, too, I'm in the midst right now of completing the 501c3 for the St. Croix Emergency Public Safety Alliance. So that is a step forward to support the dive team and public safety in general here in the city. So I'm working on that, and there are funds that are in there to help ensure the longevity of that program. So there's a lot involved with it than just the dive team. So it's a huge undertaking. People don't realize, even though I think our team is very robust, we've done what I believe to be an extraordinary job, given if you look at some of the other dive teams in and around St. Croix County and over in Minnesota, who our partners, our diving partners over there we've worked with over the years have come and gone, and we've managed to remain robust. We were the only volunteer dive team that dove on the I-35 bridge collapse, so that's a personal achievement and something. Hats off to the team members. So we're the real deal, and yes, I would like to keep it going.
Let's talk numbers. What kind of economic impact is it going to affect his budget?
That is the thing that we need to sit down, because to date, what I've done is with the St. Croix, with the cruise that we've done, we've raised significant amounts of money to offset that impact to Josh's budget. So I'd like to, whoever takes it over, however it moves forward, with what was happening with St. Croix EMS, that's why we started to move in the direction of the 501c3 in hopes that maybe we would just continue on individually. I don't think that's the best option, but given the uncertainty, that was what I was left with. So if the police department is interested in picking it up, then here we've got an additional revenue possibility that can help them. Now, the way that the alliance was set up was as a public safety umbrella to help all public safety entities here, not just the dive team, but just public safety in general. So
what number is?
It's hard for me. It's hard for me right now. It's caught a little bit off guard. I didn't bring any of those numbers with. I will say, Randy, what generally speaking, we replace equipment that just gets old, and we kind of do that on to try to hold, rather than coming through and replacing all the BCs. We just, as they kind of come to the end of their lifespan, we replace them. So, to do that, you're looking at about $1,000, for a decent BC. When I say BC, sorry, buoyancy compensator. So, and regulators are probably about another $300 or $400, depending upon what you get. And given the fact that we live up here in the north, there's special regulators to account for very cold temperatures. So then there's underwater dive communication, which we've also purchased. I couldn't give you, I don't want to just throw out numbers, but if you give me some time, I could certainly put some numbers together on what, moving forward, what impact that would have on a budget.
And are they all volunteer?
They are all volunteer. And the way I have it set up is we have volunteers from all, I try to go as far out in the county as we can, given if there's an incident that occurs somewhere. You should back up. When we first started the program, we received a lot of funds from United Way. The agreement was at that time that we would respond to all incidents within St. Croix County. The Sheriff's Department opted to kind of go with their own team, and so we were kind of now just, which was fine, we were just kind of relegated to our service area. So now we just pretty much stay within our EMS service area and our partners there. So the money that we got initially to start all that, that's the same, essentially the same equipment. We've just been kind of, if that answers your question.
Can you talk a little bit about are divers required to be first responder certified? What about evidence recovery? Are they required to be sworn officers? Can you talk a little bit about that aspect that might obviously impact budgetary talks?
So our requirements were that you had to be at least first responder. When I was talking about some of these other divers, many of them are from fire departments, from our partners, from St. Joe's, Somerset, and Richmond. So I have about 15 divers right now. Some, I would say 10 core ones that we rely on, but my roster is about 10 solid divers. But to your point, they are first responders, and we did a week-long training of I think it was like 4 divers. This was quite a while ago, where they were trained in evidence recovery. So I am an evidence recovery technician, diver. Josh, I don't know if you went through that. Yeah, you went through that training. So I had divers back then that were trained in that. So, and then, you know, we were also called for that. The St. Paul Police Department asked us to come in and do that recovery of those 2 handguns on the river. That was because of our expertise in underwater evidence recovery. So yes, we do have divers that are certified in that. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the next step is, first of all, and I'm not speaking for the mayor, but I know that he's very adamant about keeping the dive team.
Oh, wow.
With Hudson.
Good. That's nice to hear.
And I think you guys could say the same thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what we need to do next is you need to get the numbers together.
Yes, I can
so we can present them. I could say finance, start there, and then we can take it to full council to transfer if that's something we need to do.
Do you want, Randy, a recommendation of not only the budgetary impact, but what my recommendation would be as far as whether or not it should be a law enforcement or some other entity? So I believe, Josh, you talked about the fire department as well. The chief's not here to talk about that, but I don't know if he was, if he would be interested in maybe sitting on that as well.
Absolutely.
I think it would be a good idea to at least get his perspective. Because
do you want to wait another? Do you want a month to do it? We can wait, right? Or
I'll yield to whatever you tell me when you want it. I'll have that information for you.
Let's have it at our. You want a next month meeting, or do you want it at
have it at the
finance?
next meeting? Could we have it at the next meeting?
You mean the next finance committee meeting?
Yeah,
or
I
the
mean, is
yeah.
that
Yes, absolutely. I'll get that together for you right now.
20?
Well, it's a week and a half.
A week and a half.
But let me ask you, the evidence recovery, does that have to be a sworn officer or no?
No.
Gotcha.
There are civilians, even in law enforcement, that are evidence technicians that are non-sworn police officers. But
Gotcha. Cool.
it just is it's just a discipline that divers should, can be involved with. So Keith Cormican, who came in and did the initial teaching of that, we would probably have to have that revisited again because some of those divers have come and gone. And I haven't really kept up on that part of it, given the fact that the St. Croix County Sheriff's Department partnered with Washington County. So I didn't focus on the evidence recovery, given that they had a team. But I think it's my understanding that they're that they don't have the same amount of divers that they used to have as well with St. Croix County. And once again, this is back to what I was saying before. Dive teams are very difficult to keep going because of the commitment by the divers. It is an enormous time commitment. I mean, we train once a month, and then right now we're in the midst of our watermanship testing, which is 3 months, and it's a rigorous physical agility test that they have to complete in order to remain on the team. And we do that up at the middle school, where, like I say, we're in the middle of doing that right now. So going forward, it doesn't matter. Even when we get divers on, they still have to get through that physical agility test to remain on the team. You have to be in good condition, and it's not just, we just don't take people that are, recreational divers. So he would do fine, but we might need to work out a little bit. We would need to talk.
So I think when was the meeting? Next meeting?
The 21st.
21st.
So let me understand. You want budget impact, training requirements, just basically a synopsis of what we would need moving forward as far as the budget impact. And okay.
Can you do that by the 21st?
Yes, absolutely.
Your boss is saying otherwise.
You're going to be on vacation.
Okay, see, that's why I brought my wife.
So the next,
So the one after that is,
February 4th.
February 4th meeting. Are you in town? So we'll say February 4th, the finance meeting.
Oh, you want it in finance, not here? Okay.
Yeah, we'll make a decision sooner than later. Okay?
Absolutely. That wasn't the intention. I thought we were just going to talk about. That's fine.
Government takes too long. Any questions for Glenn? Thank you, sir.
I do have a question. What is your gut between police, fire, EMS?
I'm sorry, my gut as far as where it should be?
Yes.
My concern with, of course, remaining with EMS would be preferable just because we're creatures of comfort and habit, and we've worked with EMS, and that's been our home. Mm-hmm. So moving forward, that's what I would like. Mm-hmm. As Randy had mentioned, moving forward, I'm not going to be here forever. So this is a bit of a legacy thing for me as well. I started this team back in 2000, and yes, I think it's important for our community. And so moving forward, to answer your question, it really, really depends upon what it is that the police department would want or what the fire department would care to do. Now, that being said, there's two very different approaches. A law enforcement approach is not probably, I would guess, is not going to go along the lines of a rescue oriented, which is what we are. So we do ice rescue. In order that somebody gets submerged, we have divers that are specifically trained for that environment, for cutting a hole in the ice and extracting people or property from an ice rescue situation. That would be more inclined to probably remain with a fire-based system. Okay. On a law enforcement side, it would probably be more, as Jeff mentioned, an evidence-based system, which would then be more of a recovery. So when we deal with recoveries, time is not of the essence, right? Mm-hmm. So that's more of, we would muster officers or individuals, and then a period of time would lapse where we would be recovering a victim or property or evidence. So that's a very good question, and that's why we really do need to sit down and see what that would look like or what we would need to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thanks, Glenn.
You bet.
All right, EMS update. Is there anything else, Josh?
I got nothing.
Okay. Fire is out. Police. Jeff, do you have anything else?
We 4 short right now. We're in hiring process, backgrounding 4 people right now. We've got through the application process and moving through the Police Fire Commission, and hopefully we'll be hiring some people here real soon.
Good. Any other items or for future agendas? Any announcements? Information?
I did want to ask you about the maps. Remember we discussed in, I think it was the November meeting, the maps for the...
Did city planning get that new software?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could probably have those to you for the next meeting.
That would be awesome.
I'm not sure they got the software yet, but was approved.
Oh, it was approved. Yeah. As soon as they get the software, it's literally a couple clicks of a button.
Cool.
Anything else for future agendas? Seeing none?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, folks.